Well, now that I've finished the series Beyond the Fence Revisited, which is a book that Anna and I wrote way back in 2018, I've had a few inquiries or different ones have been asking about the book and that, and so I thought, it's about time I did a bit of a review on the book. So today's video is just a quick review, nothing too detailed, of our book Beyond the Fence in and around the Lockyer Valley. So depending on what part of the world you're in, grab a glass or a cup of your favourite drink, put your feet up, sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoy the review. Well, I thought today we'd try something a little bit different. Now, I thought, well, seeing as I've been drawing all the pictures from our book Beyond the Fence in and around the Lockyer Valley, I might as well show you the book, show you the art that's in there. I haven't drawn all the old abandoned buildings that are in the book, but I've drawn most of them, for my series Beyond the Fence Revisited. Now this is in a little town called Rosewood, and I first came across that when I used to do the markets in Rosewood. And I remember a lady coming up to me and saying, "Have you seen the house down the end of the town?" And I said, "No, I haven't actually." So after the market had closed and I packed everything up and I went for a drive, and it was only like a couple of 100 yards down the road from the market, and there it was. And what really fascinated me by this building was the fact that it was in a township. Normally you'd see these out in the country. And this building eventually was bulldozed. And it was quite sad when I heard that news, because what had happened was the lady that actually owned the property, well, she was in her 80s and she's in a retirement home. And there's nothing she could do about it. She couldn't fix it or get it moved. And what intrigued me about this was there was two doors. And I thought, well, one door's bigger than the other, but there was no windows, a little window over here. And what happened was, when I sort of got a bit of research, or just people just telling me little bits and pieces about it, was that this side of the little cottage was for cooking, and this side of the cottage was for sleeping. Amazing, eh? Now this one here, I used to see this going through to Rosewood. Actually, it was on the side of the road, and it's just before a little township called Grantchester. And it's another one that just amazed me. And one day I was at a different market, and this lady was standing there looking at it, and I said, "Oh, do you know where that is?" And she said, "Yes, I grew up in this house." So, wow, amazing. So she bought a copy, or she bought one of my images that I do on wood, and she's told me that the house, they didn't live in it for too long, because they built another house across the road. But what they used to use it for was drying out their onions and things like that. Storage, stored it, and I found a lot of these old buildings too, they used to use them for storing hay and that, once they'd sort of gone past their use by date. Now this house was actually pulled down and moved to another area in Queensland and re-erected. I'd love to see where it is. That'd be amazing. Now, across the road from where that house is was this truck. I call it Truck and Tree. Now apparently the farmer used to use the truck for delivering water to his cows. That was all it was used for, apparently. I guess it just broke down there in the middle of the paddock one day, and that's where he left it. Now one of the things that intrigued me about this truck, not just the fact that there's a tree growing through it, and now actually the tree is actually about to hear. You can hardly even see. You wouldn't even realise it was there. But the funny thing about it was when I zoomed in on the front, and to me it looked like the word Nissan. I thought, no, it can't be. Surely no, it'd be an old English, Bedford or something. But I actually found out later that it was actually a Mazda. I don't know what model or anything like that, but I was just so intrigued when I saw that. And I know it's not a house, but it amazed me. Now, I first came across this little cottage when I was going for a job interview at Forest Hill. And it's not on the main road, it's just off the main road, on a little side road. I remember talking to the lady that I was looking, that was looking to hire. And she said, and I said I was an artist, and she said, "Oh, have you seen the house down the road?" And I said to her, "No, whereabouts?" She said, "Oh, it's just down the..." So I said, "Oh, I'll go and have a look." And when I came across it, I thought, "Oh, wow." It actually blew me away, because what intrigued me most of all was the roof. It's got a hip roof, and I thought, why would someone do that? It's just a little wee cottage. And it turned out, back in the day when it was, actually in use, there were 7 kids living in that house. A little 1-bedroom house. Yeah, it amazed me. And it's still in pretty good condition. Well, I mean, it's not livable, but it looks really, I don't know, it's beautiful. And it's sitting right in the middle of the paddock. All around it is crops. So this is right in the middle of the cropping area. Just down the road from the little house was this house. and they were owned by the same people. And what got me, of course, with this one was this is one of the only buildings that I went onto the property to get some footage of it, because you couldn't see this from the road because I've changed all this. This was just a big bushes and trees here. That tree there was there. The farmer, he said, yeah, we can go on there and take some photos. So I spent quite a bit of time there. And the fact that it was on such a lean, you'd feel like you just go up and stand next to it and push it and it would fall over. But it's still there. And I've been back there because I did do something. What did I do? I think I drew the shed over here for the series Beyond the Fence Revisited. And it's still standing. Amazing. Now, I'm not sure if this was an old cow shed or milking shed or what it was, or just a barn. But back in the earlier days, we found out from the owners that they actually used to live in this place. And it was down by the creek. And one night the waters were rising and they could hear, lumps of wood and things banging against it. So they got out of there and they moved it up to higher ground. And that's still standing there today as well. I think I did draw that in the series Beyond the Fence Revisited. And I drew that in 2016. I think it was the same as the last one too, 2016. I hadn't been over in Australia for very long then, maybe a few months. Now this one here was on the same property as the last one. Only this one is gone now. And I remember we used to go out, my sister and my brother-in-law, and we'd go out on the weekends and just drive around the countryside in the Lockyer Valley and find all these old buildings. It wasn't to make the book, not to start with anyway. That came along a bit later. Anna and I started the book in 2018, so this is 2 years before then. Anyway, I was driving past there one day and I couldn't believe it. There was a big, one of those big excavators parked sort of over here, and it was, actually just a couple of swoops and it bowled it all down. There's a huge packing shed there, which I drew it all in Beyond the Fence Revisited. But that was a little dairy. I didn't know what these sheds were. We don't have them in New Zealand, but that's where they used to milk the cow. This one here, I drove past this so many times. This is the other one too. I think there was two of them that I actually went on the property. Now up over here, way up over here, there's a new house. And the owners live there now. But at the time, as I say, I drove past it because the road was on the other side. So I drove past it, but the trees, you could only just sort of make out a little, I knew there was a dwelling there or something there. But all around here, there's sheds and tractor sheds and, barns and that. And it really amazed me. It intrigued me. And I thought, how am I going to get on there and draw it? And then one day I drove past, it must have been that time of the year where I could actually see the property, and I thought, So I went up to the driveway and I could see the house up there. I thought, I wonder if I should just drive up and ask them. So I went up, knocked on the door, and I said, look, I'd love to draw you. And she said, yeah, go ahead. And one of the amazing things about this place was her grandmother's house, was the fact that at the back here, that's where they did the cooking, and that's actually a separate from the house. And there's a little walkway through there. It's all been knocked over now, all fallen down, but it just amazed me. And all the little machinery lying around, all old rusty machinery. I remember there's a whole lot of bottles too. I think those bottles are gone now because I saw the lady a while ago. Oh, actually, when we did the book launch at the Gatton Library, I asked her about all the bottles, and she said, there's a bottle lady's come and got them all. Because I think that was worth a few bob. Those bottles are really, really old bottles. I was a bit slow there. Never mind. Now on the way out to Thornton, which is right at the end of the road, like from Mulgowie, you go out there and this comes to a dead end. Stop. You can go through, or you can't go through, but there's a gate at the end of the road, which is private property, but that's as far as the road goes. And it's about a half-hour drive, I suppose, from where I live. Might be a bit longer, but around about there. And I couldn't find anything. And I thought, there's got to be something out here. And it wasn't until we turned around and come back, and I happened to look up, and there it was. Well, about 100 yards off the road, and it's up on higher ground. And you can see the front here, there's a tree growing through there. They turned it into a chook house. I didn't see any chooks there at the time. And now this one is another one that was not on the main road, but not far from it. And this is one I found by accident, just driving past. And it was a late addition to the book, 2018. So yes, it was done at the time that we were looking for buildings to put in the book. And driving past it, I thought, it's a nice looking house. And it wasn't until I sort of slowed down and I saw a big hole in the side of it. And it turns out that this house had the white ants moved in. So the people had to move out. The ants just ate everything from the inside out. And I'm surprised it's still standing there today. This is Sanger's Bridge. This is the one that I did actually that was the last video I did for the book. And once again, like we were coming around here, driving around, and we would have missed it. Just that we sort of slowed down, then I looked up because of the undergrowth. It just virtually had it all blocked in, covered in, so I had to sort of just, well, actually no, at the time when I drew it, it wasn't blocked in. It was pretty much like that. Now it is, it's just all covered. You can just see little bits and pieces. The structure is still there, and this is where the Cobb & Co used to stop and change the horses and give the passengers a feed and what have you. Great piece of history, this. And this bridge was built by convicts, and it got washed away. I'm not too sure, I can't remember of the year now, and that washed all the middle section of the bridge out. So the structures on this side are still there. This side there's a few posts there, but this is the main bit of it. So when I drew the picture for the video Beyond the Fence Revisited, I sort of just put a stagecoach coming across it and did it from a side-on sort of view, so that it had the bridge going right across. And I just used artistic license on that one. This is another one that's not far from where I live, and it's an old dairy. But I just thought I'd draw it because it is in pretty good condition, and they still use it for storage and that. And over here, you'll find these everywhere, on all the farms. And what they were used for was storing their milk and dairy products. And the lady that lived at this place, or the house is over at the back of it, but she said when they were kids, they put all the milk and stuff in there, and it used to keep it cool. I don't know how, but it did the job. Pretty clever, these old settlers. Oh, now this is one that we found further away, probably about an hour from where I live. And at the time when we came across this one, this was with my sister and my brother-in-law, and the grass was pretty high. But you could see it because it was sort of down a bit from the road. And the thing that intrigued me with this straight away was the fact that the veranda had dropped. Because people look at it and go, oh, that doesn't look quite right. And I said, yeah, but that's how it is. And they've all got their own stories, and I won't go into detail here on them, but I just wanted to show you the book that Anna and I did. Another one that we come across purely by accident, we actually, because that tree there is another one that comes right out to the road. And we were driving down this road, and we pulled over about right here, and was just looking at something. I can't remember, it was the GPS or whatever it was. And then I looked up, and this was here. I thought, gee, that must be an old building, you know, like something we can put in the book. Well, we're just trying to work out what it was. We found out in the end it was an old butcher shop. And once again, this has got an amazing story to tell as well. Now, I used to go over to a place called Highfields, and there was a chap there that used to do my picture framing for me. And this was past Murphy's Creek, so we'd be driving along, and it's sort of right by the main road. The main road was about along here. And it used to intrigue me every time I went past it. I thought, what would that have been used for? Why was it built there? And we could find no information about this when we tried to find out, you know, so we use it for putting in the book. But I wanted to put it in because it just intrigued me, and the fact that it was so close to the road. And the only information we could sort of get was it was possibly built before the main road was built, because there's no way you'd build a property or a shed like that. Big yards here, so they're obviously used for cattle or horses. And even when you look inside, you know, it's sort of the concrete floor. I think it would have been a dairy. Maybe that's, you know, not a dairy in the sense of just for the farm. That would have been producing milk for supply by the size of it. Now, this was the last one that we did for the book, and this is actually owned by Anna's son, and it's a little cottage, and we've stayed in it. They got the main houses over to the right, which used to be the old telephone exchange, and that's another beautiful old historical place that Dan has been, well, he's spent many years, you know, getting it from what it was to just about a rundown wreck into a beautiful house. And he's still working on it. He's getting closer to finishing it, but he's a busy man, you know, and he just does it in his spare time. Now this here is interesting because it was the old schoolhouse, and it was moved from further down the road to this site, and has been used for storing hay and all sorts of things. It's still livable. Dan's in the process of renovating it. It's another work in progress. Now, to give you an idea of the Lockyer Valley, this is the area we live in. We live in a little place here called Laidley. There's about a population of around 5,000. And then over here is Rosewood. That's actually technically just not in the Lockyer Valley, but I wanted to put that building in there because it just intrigued me, and it's so close. I think back in the days it was part of the Lockyer Valley. And then we go, so that's to the east, and then down south through Mulgowie is Townsend. That's where that little house is on the hill. And we go right through to Murphy's Creek. That was the shed on the side of the road. So this is sort of the area, and we couldn't find anything up in the north. until I actually had a commission to do over in Lockyer, and we were talking about, she wanted me to draw her house, and we were talking about, the book and that, and the husband said, oh, there's a house just around the corner, go and have a look at that, that's abandoned. And I saw it and I said straight away, oh, that would have definitely gone in the book, and it would have been the only one that we could find on that side of the Warrego Highway. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you where the inspiration from the video Beyond the Fence Revisited came from. So now you know that this is the book that Anna and I did. She did a lot of research on this. Now, if you are interested in getting your own signed, personalised copy, I've left a link to my email in the description below. So just drop me an email and we can discuss the details there.